Before I start on doing a bit more about strokes, I want to talk about, because it's been bothering me this week, and I've had to, a washing machine head. I've had to sort it out in my head. And also, I'm talking to someone who watches this, and we've become friendly, and she is really learning the TA and doing well. But we had a little chat about negative nurturing parent. She said she completely overlooked negative nurturing parent and how she's in it most of the time. So I said, could I use the example on Chinwag? And she said, of course. But it's not personal, but it really, I thought it, it told the story quite well, as did mine. So let's start. When we have these thoughts, well, that sort of thought, it's a compulsion. You can't get rid of the thought. You have to act on it. Let's find out the ego state we're in, and let's see what the other ego states would say. So talking about this example, negative nurturing parent. She'd forgotten her. Do you remember her? There's negative nurturing parent. Give that to me, I'll do it for you. And positive nurturing parent says, if you need a hand, just ask. Yeah? That's the nurturing parent. If you need a hand, just ask. Give that to me, I'll do it for you. Now this takes away the other person's personal power and also leaves us in a state like this. So when did this happen for this person? She was at work and she was behind with her job. She had a stack of work to do and she was getting through it, but she had to concentrate quite hard. And she heard down the other end of the office somebody saying, well, how would I do that? And how do I get this and this and that and this and that? And of course she thought, well, I know jolly well. So she put her pen down. She stopped the work that was rather urgent that she needed to get done. She walked all the way down the end of the office. And then she started with, you'll never guess what, she started with words. Well, because do you remember when we're in parent, often our other ego state that sort of corresponds to that is adapted child, remember? And so she walked up and she said, I'm awfully sorry to trouble you and interrupt. I mean, yeah, she has stopped work, her own work, gone down of her own volition, hasn't been asked. I'm awfully sorry to bother you and interrupt, she said. But I couldn't help but overhear what you're going to do and what you need to know. And I know. So if you come up to my desk, I'll print you off all the maps and I'll print you off this and that. And and she got way behind with her own work. Yeah. Negative nurturing parent. Now she did that not out of choice. If you do that out of choice, if you do that out of adult, and you say, right, I know that very well. I'm prepared to give up, a little bit of time for this person and stop my own work. Yes, that's a decision. And then you walk over to them and you say, I couldn't help but overhear. You're having a bit of a problem. If you need any help, I do know the answers. If you'd like a hand, I'm at the end desk up there. Yeah, just call on me. Now that is a concerted decision. Can you hear the difference? But when she was in negative nurturing parent, she didn't give it a second thought. She had a compulsion to get up and do it. And then she went into child. Oh, I hope I'm not bothering you. So sorry. Yeah. Whereas adult would say what I've just said. Yeah, adult would say, yeah. Oh, couldn't help but overhearing, and I do know the answers to your dilemma. If you need to know, just come up and let me know, and I'll tell you. Or she could choose, we talked about, not to say anything, that they would probably find the answer, that, give them a minute and see how they get on. It wasn't her responsibility. She needed to concentrate on her own work. So if she went into adult, she could make that concerted choice. And that's where the ego states start really coming in. When we're forced into an ego state and we don't know how to get out of it. Now, I'm being forced into an ego state. I'm being forced into child by a controlling parent. Yeah. And I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't get out of it. Controlling parent said to me, I don't know why you're bothering to do chinwag. It's boring. People won't want. What makes you think that people want to listen? What makes you think it's interesting? Stop doing it. Adapted child said, is it really boring? Oh, shall I look for ways to make it more interesting? I wouldn't bother. People are just being kind. Okay. And that was going through my head. And it's not what I'm hearing. I'm getting some lovely comments and people are enjoying it. And I'm enjoying doing it. So, yeah, where's that coming from? I need to quieten that controlling parent voice. I couldn't do it. I couldn't quieten it. I kept thinking, take no notice. Take no notice, I said in Rebellious Child. Yeah, just shut him up. I couldn't. Kept going round and round and round. In the end, what helped me was to realise that I had gone into adapted child. That was my adapted child saying, are people finding it boring? Is it interesting enough? Should I do it? Should I not do it? Shall I, shan't I? Shall I, shan't I? So now it's time to make that decision in adult. Adult. Here I am. The here and now adult. Oh, I don't know. It's so boring. People are telling me no, not people. Controlling parents telling me it's boring. Do you want to listen to controlling parent? No. Okay. How can you shut controlling parent up? By listening to you. Oh. And what am I saying? You're saying make your own decision. Right. Make your own decision. Do I want to do chinwag? How do I feel? Let's choose. And my choice is, yes, I want to do chinwag and I'm getting some lovely feedback. I much prefer being with adult, the here and now. Controlling parent and child nearly drove me nuts. Nearly drove me nuts. So I wanted to just use it as an example as to what goes on in our head. But you see, I always say the one we need to listen to is child. Get in touch with child. Adult says, how are you feeling? What do you want? What do you need? I'm feeling fed up. Oh, what do you want? I want to get these thoughts out of my head. What do you need? I need to listen to you. And what am I saying? Well, you're saying make your own mind up. And that's how we get into adult. So I just thought I'd share those with you because they're helpful. Well, I hope they're helpful. Let's go back onto strokes then. Okay, so do you remember what a stroke is? It's a unit of recognition. A unit of recognition. I say hello. It can be verbal or non-verbal. Do you remember? It can be positive or negative. Do you remember? And it can be conditional and unconditional. Conditional is if you're doing something, like a little one might have done a painting. So I love your painting. Conditional. Positive. I don't like your painting. Negative. Conditional. I love you. Unconditional. Positive. I hate you. Unconditional. Negative. Verbal and non-verbal is obvious, isn't it? Okay. I think this is where, again, this adapted child came from for me. I think when you're a child of the 50s, at school and at home, not every home, not every school, but generally what I picked up was, if you're quiet and a good girl, you'll get places. And so I tried to be that. I tried not to butt in. I tried to do my lessons well, you know. And so what we find is the behavior that we find works best for us as children, we tend to promote. I mean, some parents don't listen to their children. And so the way they get strokes is by misbehaving. They get loads of strokes then. They get whacked, they get shouted at, they get spoken to. I'll give you one more chance. They've got them parents' attention, or the adult around them's attention. That's just what they want. And so they will carry on in that way. So they repeat the behavior. So stroking reinforces the behavior which is stroked. Stroking reinforces the behavior which is stroked. So if you're told off because you're misbehaving, that's a negative, isn't it? But never mind, it's better than being ignored. So behavior will carry on. Because any stroke is better than no stroke at all. Supposing I decided as a child that I'd better seek negative rather than risk being stroke deprived. Then when I received a negative stroke as a grown-up, then that negative will act as a reinforcement to my behaviour just as effectively as a positive stroke. And so you see, I got strokes if I was a good girl. I got strokes if, I was quiet. I mean, I was always told off for talking in school. Don't talk. Don't talk to your next door neighbour. Be quiet. I was told by my mum, Dad's coming home from work. He'll want a bit of peace and quiet. Go and play in your room, or, if he comes in, be quiet. And then, of course, my father really reinforced that because he didn't like small talk. He didn't like just inane chatter. Well, I'm full of inane chatter, as you know. So stuck firmly in my head is, be quiet. And so that gives me a positive stroke. So I'm having to fight that with Chinwag. Interesting, isn't it? So that's why people repeat the same patterns of behaviour, because they've learned what behaviour gives them strokes. So we need to let go of these old ways and give ourselves permission to find different ways to get strokes. So next time, I'm going to talk about the giving and taking of strokes. Because how do we give strokes and how do we take them? I've given you, we've had a little bit of but we'll go more on into that. I hope this TA has helped you this week.